This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us this week, it's kind of like a ISE Redux with a couple extra added. So first and foremost, the left side of my brain, Mr. George Tucker.
Hello, everybody.
How are you, sir? Are you recovered yet?
I was fine.
See, I just last night I actually slept decently. And slept normally. I was getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning the rest of the week, early this week. So, all right. The other part of our ISE squadron is Mr. Matt D. Scott. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing well. And the last, at least on this round table, is Mr. Harry Moody.
Hello.
So Harry, Matt, and George all went with me to ISE, Integrated Systems Europe. The rest of this panel did not because they didn't want to.
And now I'm on site fixing everything that had to happen while I was at ISE.
Well, yes, you are. Harry and I have been spending a lot of team viewer time together. First up, Chris Netto. How are you, sir?
Doing good. How's everything?
Good. And last but not least, Gina Sansevero from FSR. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing really well. How are you guys?
Good. Good to have you on. I'll actually see you next week. Is that right, at BLC?
Yes, next week.
Next week's BLC, the happy NSCA event, Business Leadership Conference. So if you're going, come by and say hi to Gina, and if you see me, throw something at me. So, all right. Yeah, or money is always nice. Yeah, money's always nice. Okay, so while we were actually gone, I got a couple emails from some friends that said, "Hey, didn't know if you saw this, didn't know if you heard about this." Let's see if I can get the story up here. See if I remember how to do this after 2 weeks off. No, I guess I don't. All right, let's just do it this way. Huh?
Screen share. Pick your window.
You know what? I did screen share. There it is. I'm not sure why it wasn't popping up. You know what?
Here to help.
I know. You're such a good help. Diversified is acquiring or has acquired technical innovation. And this is from tvtechnology.com. Another one of the stories is from our buddies over at Commercial Integrator. Inside a mega merger. How and why $215 million Diversified acquired $180 million technical innovation. One of the emails I got from an integrator friend of mine said that this merger could very well be the biggest, quote unquote, the biggest integrator from a sales perspective. In other words, the most sales in the U.S. Now, yes, AVISPL is the big kahuna, but AVISPL has they have other offices outside the U.S. Actually, Matt talked with their UK office over at ISE and did an interview there. So, George, we'll start with you on this one. What does this mean for integrators, kind of the small folks and the medium-sized folks, when you have a deal like this going through?
Well, I think we're still in a stage where a lot of those medium-sized companies are starting to merge, where you can, you will. I think you get market share, you get pricing opportunities, and you get to be the guy on the block that everybody knows, and you do the work. It's going to be harder to be a mom and pop, just like when the Walmarts and the chain stores come into town. You're going to have to find a way to be very niche-y and perhaps diversify just a bit more. That's the way I see it, really. Yeah.
Matt, you guys don't have huge acquisitions like this in general in Canada. But from a standpoint of watching this from kind of the outside just north, what does this do anything for you guys in your business?
Not directly in our business. Being a smaller integrator, we always would approach this type of conversation, especially with a client of, they're a big firm, yeah, they've got a bunch of offices, yeah, but we're your local guys on the ground. We're the guys that are going to help you anytime. You're not going to call a 1-800 number. That would be kind of our approach in dealing with it. And then as far as just seeing this happen in the industry, I don't think it's bad. I think it's good. Bringing
good for who though?
Good for them.
Okay.
It's not.
It's an honest question.
Yeah, it's not necessarily bad for the industry in general, other than the fact that as soon as you get the conglomerates, it just makes it harder for everybody else to combat and go toe-to-toe with these guys. But to be honest, at the end of the day, I don't know if it really matters.
It's just another integrator.
It's just you just have another big, massive integrator that is going to sell things based on their size and their scope and the fact that they have 47 offices in 47 states. No one, like, that doesn't care, or that doesn't carry any weight unless you need an integrator in those 47 states and you want it to be the same across the board. And that's where I see these big firms being effective. But what, now we're going to see AVI SPL go up against, I'm sure I read it, but I don't remember what they're...
Diversified.
Are they sticking with just Diversified?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they're going to go up, like, does that really affect most of us unless we're in one of those 2/3 companies?
Yeah, probably not. Gina, from a manufacturer standpoint, I've always been curious about this when big mergers like this happen. It's kind of like the opposite side of when Control4 bought Pack Edge a few weeks ago, right? You're going to have Pack Edge dealers, you're going to have Control4 dealers, and it'd be interesting to see how the two kind of meet. When you have big integrators like this, my expectation is that on some level they're at least interfacing with FSR, and they're one of the two of them, I'm almost certain, is purchasing from FSR, right? So when you do that, how do you guys approach big companies like that, right? I'm not asking you out specifically, Diversified, but maybe AVI SPL or some of the medium to large companies. How do you guys approach them when it comes to servicing them and making sure that they're taken care of?
So I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer to that. What we see is that we're going to have to learn what the new culture of that company is going to be. Do they allow the individual offices to make decisions, or is everything run through a headquarters? Who was a loyal FSR dealer before this, and can we continue to keep up those relationships? With AVI SPL, there's a lot of autonomy in the regional offices, and we can go and we can see from a manufacturer standpoint a number of different people throughout the country, and some of them will say, yeah, absolutely, we have some projects that are going on, and we have FSR specified, and there are others that say, we don't have as much autonomy as somebody else, so we have to go through HQ for that, and then we'll talk to people in HQ. But I think what's going to happen, and especially since Diversified is right in our backyard in Kenilworth, New Jersey, it's really only, 25 minutes from the office, so they were and still are very, very friendly FSR dealers. And it'll be interesting to see if the culture within the company actually changes based on these acquisitions. I know that the technical innovations is going to be kind of morphed into Diversified, and if that's the case, are there going to be hiccups along the way? For sure, I think the answer is. But does that change the way the employee power, the way they purchase, the way they work on projects, and it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, it definitely will be. Mr. Mead, there, you work in and around DC with a lot of different companies, both big and small. Same kind of question to you as to Matt. What does this do to the medium and the not the obviously ginormous companies, but the medium to big companies that are used to going up against the big boys and girls in the block?
Pretty much. For me, it means that there's going to be less of the big bid work. That's going to get eaten up by them because they have the resources that can sit there and bid it, and go through and do all the specs and everything else. So it means that for us, I think it means that we get much more boutique and much more service oriented and setting ourselves apart that way, as opposed to you're dealing with megalith XYZ. You're dealing with little guys who are actually able to give you the response time that you're looking for and the more personal touch that you're looking for.
Yeah,
Tim, can I ask a question really quick?
Sure.
Because I'm curious about that. I was kind of thinking about that myself, and my question is, obviously small companies have a reputation to be able to move quicker, right? They're able to move quicker for their clients. Is this going to affect the way that clients or end users see the AV industry? If a big company like an AVI-SPL or a Diversified Technical Innovations will end up coming in and doing a job for you, and they're not necessarily able to be as spry or limber as a smaller company, is that going to affect the way the AV industry is portrayed to others in the future? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it. Sorry, go ahead, Harry.
I was going to say a couple of things on that. We actually have gotten subcontracted before to run service for some of these bigger guys. So we end up being the local service contact for their customers. And but two, yeah, I've made a career of picking up after the big guys.
Well,
and that's actually not a bad career advice either.
No, there's something to be said for, when you look at this application from the end user standpoint, there's something to be said for the client or the end user being happy with, either buying local and supporting that local non-massive monopoly company. That's why Ace Hardware and Home Hardware and all those little companies still exist, even though Home Depot is on in every major town. But just as Harry said, we get contracted as well for a fairly large integrator out of Dallas, and we do a ton of IT work both locally and in Toronto for this huge integrator out of Dallas that they don't have anyone on the ground up in Canada, so they contract companies like myself and others to do that kind of work. I think the long and short view for the end user will come down to the fact of, as long as they're maintaining what they determine to be an acceptable level of service and support, they probably won't really care whether whether AVI and Diversified merge again and become an even bigger company. It won't matter to them in the long run, because as much as we love our industry and we like to think our industry is huge, in the grand scheme of things and for the general consumer, they don't really care. They just want their boardroom to work.
Yeah. Chris, I want to bring you in on this because you've worn a lot of hats over the years, and you've been a tech manager for large corporations, and now you're a consultant for those some of those same corporations. Back to Gina's point, do you think that changes end users' perception of the industry?
Nope.
No,
Not,
just no.
No, just straight up no. Well, I mean, this is why we do the.
That may be the shortest answer you've ever given me for anything.
No. Why did you make him elaborate? Let him leave it.
3-year-old face and say no, not having it. Well, let me explain why I emphatically say no. As a consultant who does bid work for these large corporations, the corporations have their companies that they choose. That's part of their buying, their approved vendors list.
Yeah.
If Diversified was on an approved buyers list, now Technical Innovations, by merger, is now on that as well. So maybe they're able to service the companies or large corporations that have multiple offices a little better. I think the bigger thing is this. This is how it affects the little guys or the smaller guys. They now have buying power that is going to double very quickly. So a company that was purchasing, take FSR, and they were buying it at 25% off, now we'll go back to the manufacturers and say, we're that much bigger, and we want that much more of a discount. Where that puts the heat then on the smaller companies that don't have that buying power and that leverage. So that is one aspect of a bigger merger that will affect the little guys or the smaller companies. And you're right, Harry, there are people that make careers off of fixing what the big guys mess up. Because one of the things that seems to go hand in hand with the larger company is that when it comes to the final those granular details, they miss on it, because they are just moving in, big iceberg mode, whereas the little guys can zip around a lot quicker on a jet ski, for that matter.
Yeah.
So you have that. The other thing that has to be taken into account when looking at this, and I know Diversified is local, it's in Jersey, word. So with Diversified here in Jersey, their biggest market was they were doing stadiums, stadium sounds. They were working a lot in the big TV production studios, right? So they have a history of that. They also are heavily in the digital signage market. They not only will sell the monitors, they also do that one thing that we say is very elusive in our industry, which is they also have the content creation going on in the background. So prior to this merger, Diversified Systems was two companies, Diversified Systems and Diversified Media Group. They are now merged as one, or three companies, correct? And now they've all merged under one, and now they've purchased Technical Innovation. So from a bigger scheme of things, it's a bigger play. Technical Innovations was more the conference room AV guys, traditional AV guys that we know. The guys from Diversified were moving into other areas, and they did have an AV division, but their big business was in the broadcast and obviously their stadiums.
All right, very good. All right, let's wrap up ISE. I guess not necessarily once and for all. We've been putting videos up all week, but I wanted to cover a story that we actually covered on AVWeek, kind of two different sides of the same coin. This is from Installation International, and Installation did an interview with both Vin Brunau, who's the head of CEDIA, and with Dave Labuscus from Infocom. And according to this article, quote unquote, technical advances are creating opportunities that are almost inconceivable in scale, believes David Labuscus, executive director and CEO of Infocom International. Okay, very optimistic. What I want to point there on, and Dave goes on to talk about a lot of really cool things that Infocom is doing this year. Harry, we're going to start with you on this one. Inconceivable in scale. That's the part of the article that caught me, and unfortunately, it's in like the first or second paragraph. Inconceivable in scale. Are we at that point where we're inconceivable in scale and things are coming down that way?
I think it might seem that way to someone who has followed the AV industry, because, again, as Matt was saying, the AV industry itself is not all that big. It's very small. And the now I'm completely off on a different train of thought. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how the convergence keeps going with IT and how much IT takes over. I mean, one example here is that one of the sites that I'm dealing with, they keep simplifying their systems every time that something happens. Every time we put a new system in, there's less and less to it. There's less and less to it. So I don't know if I would particularly agree with inconceivably large or whatever the actual term was.
Where is that? What is that? What is that general statement? Is what I'm asking first. Like,
Chris, I thought the same thing. I'm like, that is the most vague, uninteresting answer that I've ever heard.
It's not vague. It's inconceivable.
No,
have you never seen Princess Bride?
Princess Bride. It's not a problem.
Can we please quote Princess Bride now for the remainder of the show?
You keep using that word.
I was waiting for somebody to say that. Yeah. So okay. So let's take a look at the industry in general, right? According to Infocom, this is the year 2016. This is the year that the U.S. market is surpassed by Asia Pacific, right? Okay, cool. I can see the inconceivably large part of that. Are we there? I mean, is this industry growing at that rate? And are we, on some precipice of greatness? Or are we just, kind of nicely making some inroads, and there's not some great big giant leaps happening.
Is he lumping us with IT? Is my first question.
Mm.
You know, because if you're going to lump us with IT, then yes. Oh wow, we just got bigger. You know, when you start adding all the components of AV with IT, and now we're finally starting to get some attention from other areas of the news, I guess, by security issues and backdoor issues and this stuff and that. You know, is that where he's going with inconceivable? Because we've been around, we've been doing the same thing for the last God knows how many years, 20 years or so. It's been the same type of systems. We can go a little further. This was something that I was working on this week. Is I think we're hitting a point from this inconceivable side where the hardware is all there for us to work. We can build anything that the customer will ask us, but now we're going to be limited not by our technology but by the software. With these backdoor openings and security issues, there's a lot of fear, which will, in my opinion, hinder people from going out and speccing a particular piece of gear that may be open to the internet and cause concern. Now, that's debatable by everybody here. You can say that within a corporate environment that it's the corporate IT department that is supposed to be protecting and shielding intruders from coming into our rooms, and who really wants to mess around with a switcher? To be honest with you, you won't change a source on one of our conference rooms. But yes, once you can get in, and Matt will probably be able to speak to it better than I can. Once you get in, it's tunneling through and finding other things that they can do bad things for.
Yeah.
That's my answer to it. If that's where he's going with the unbelievable, inconceivable, blah blah blah.
You know, I think I can add to what Chris was saying is that it's really about IoT. So it is about IT, but it's the fact that this is all going to be interconnected and conjoined, and that buzzword of IoT brings in the CES type crowd, and now they're interested as well. Whether that means that we're going to explode and become inconceivably large based on a merger with that market, or it goes the other way, is still to be determined. But I think that's really what's the major part of it. It's now a buzzword that Wall Street and the mass market gets.
I could see that. Gina, let's bring you on this when it comes to not just growing the industry, but Chris brings up a good point with the network. You guys have gotten, oh Lord, almost a year or so ago, you introduced me to a fairly compact but useful control platform that FSR has. So when you guys start developing stuff like that, and you do have a software platform, how are you talking with the end users? You directly talk with the education market. How are you talking with them and allaying some of these fears that they may have?
Well, the educational market is full of a couple of misnomers, and one of them is that they're end users, and the people I talk to in the AV media services departments are not end users. They feel like their faculty, their staff, those are the end users. Those are the ones who definitely work with the product as their clients. So they're well educated, is my point, the people that I'm talking to, and what we're finding from our point of view is that our products, from the infrastructure stuff, we don't get this very often, but from the electronics and from the control, we'll get this a lot. Our products are becoming much more commoditized, I guess you could say. Everybody is getting into it. There are a number of different companies out there where you can check out their websites, and everybody has something similar, a little black box that looks very, very similar. So, waylaying their fears, I think they're much more educated than that. I think that they understand how things work. They understand security concerns. They understand working with their IT departments. A lot of them have separate networks for AV and IT within their campuses. They're very savvy. What they're finding is, well, teach me about the benefits of using your black box or your control system over somebody else's, because that's really what it comes down to. Everybody's getting a little bit into everybody else's space, and so what do we bring to the table?
That makes a whole lot of sense. Harry, real quickly on you guys have gone from you've done medium-sized to large-sized projects. just from a government standpoint, and I'm going to be careful to ask this because you and I have had conversations about the economy in general, not related to AV. Where are we at when it comes to that segment of the AV industry? Are we growing, or are we stagnant, or where are we headed?
Yes and no. Yeah,
Wait.
I was going to say, growing and stagnant at the same time.
Okay, just depends.
It depends on what. It depends on what for this. It depends on what agency. It depends on who's buying. Some agencies are going great guns. Some agencies have had to cut back. So it really depends on who you're dealing with. Contractors, like suppliers, that's a lot of the work as well, is actual government contractors. I mean, your big guys, Lockheed and Leidos, and I'm just looking out the window and I can read the buildings. Since I'm down here in Northern Virginia today, and but yeah, so it depends on who they're working for. So it all flows downhill from the trough that all the little piggies are feeding at.
Understand. All right. Last but not least, here, guys, and we'll let you go here. This comes from our buddy Ted Green, actually, who will be on AVWeek this next Monday. Rep and distributor sales, jobs evaporating, 1 million more to disappear by 2020. This comes to him from the Forrester Group, suggesting that the rep and distributor sales may be going away. Gina, I actually want to start with you on this because you're the only manufacturer we have on here. And depending on who the manufacturer is, right? I'm not painting FSR in general. I'm talking about manufacturers in general. Depending on their business model will determine on how they do this, right? Some do distributorships. We talked to a lot of folks last week at ISC where you'll be able to get U.S. product, but it's only through distributorship, right? Whether it's UK or Germany or what have you. Other ones will allow you to sell directly. Rep jobs are the same way. A very good friend of ours and one of my best friends from years and years ago, he worked for a microphone manufacturer. He was a direct rep, and I don't know, sometime late last year, he decided that particular junction, he was time to move on from that. And so now he is a rep for a DSP and an amplifier manufacturer, but he works for a rep firm, right? So he went from being a direct rep, direct employee of that manufacturer, and now he works for an independent rep firm. And looking at stuff like this when it comes to B2B jobs and in FSR's model also, what is this? Are we in a position where manufacturers need to go directly to the end user, or does the distributor rep model still work?
Well, from FSR's point of view, we work through a rep network. We have about 20 or so manufacturers reps. It might be more than that throughout the world now. I think that it allows us to really work to where our strength is, and that's our engineering. So we quote-unquote outsource a lot of our sales. We make sure that our regional managers work well with our reps around the country so that everybody's getting answers and product and training that they need. But we really that reducing the amount of overhead that we could be spending on a sales staff allows us to really focus on engineering, and we're doing a lot of R&D. We're researching a lot of trends. We're kind of keeping up with the industry so that we know what's needed next. A lot of our consultants and architects love us because they say, you know what, Gina, we need a new table box, but we need it with a cutout here, and we need it with this kind of connectivity here, and we're able to customize things relatively quickly. And that's what working with Rep Network allows us to do. It allows us to focus our resources where our specialties are. Now, I have a little bit of a problem, and this article had a ton of really interesting facts in it. One of them specifically was that 93% of B2B buyers say they prefer to buy online, and 59% of buyers don't want to interact with salespeople. Meanwhile, the more people you talk to, and maybe they're just telling us this because they want us to feel better, but the more people we talk to, the more people say they buy based on relationships. They buy from people who they like. So really, guys, what's the answer? Are we buying from people we like, or are we buying from machines? And how should we handle that in the future? I think those are questions that we haven't seen played out. I think that those are astonishing facts if they're in fact true, and I'm sure that they are. But I was really sitting there thinking, well, people know FSR because of our interaction with others, our ability to play nice, our ability to move quickly, and our ability to really perform when we're asked to perform. And so how do you get that from a computer?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And here's the dangerous part of the next part of this discussion is talking to the rest of these four gentlemen, because all four of them have different experiences.
Sure.
Because here's the thing, you can there's an old friend of mine, tech manager from up in Maine, and his name's Scott Tyner. He writes for Raves Pubs. He's a great guy. He and I would always have a constant conversation about manufacturers' reps. He has had nothing but issues getting reps up where he is, right?
Well, he's in a remote area.
He's in a remote area, but it's still one of the biggest colleges in Maine. Granted, it's Maine. I get it. It's a ways up there. But last time I checked, it's still part of the Northeast, right? It's still part of New England.
It is. It's New England.
Somebody's region. It's in somebody's territory somewhere, right? So for crying out loud, buy Scott Tyner a cup of coffee. But that's what I want to say here is Matt Scott here lives in Canada, the 51st state of the Union. He has a different experience than Tucker does, than I do, than Neto, than Harry. Real quickly, Matt, your experience and which would you rather have? Would you rather direct with the manufacturer? Would you rather have a rep, or would you rather buy stuff online, like Gina says?
Okay, so here's the fun caveat I'm going to throw into that. I like a combination of all three. So because I am in Canada,
do you realize that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we have different rules and different just obtaining product is a bit of an adventure at times. So long and short, I have a manufacturer right now that while we were in Amsterdam, I got a call from my rep, who I like. He's a nice guy. I see him normally maybe once a year. We grab coffee. I see him at the shows all the time. But I got a call from him saying that we didn't meet our minimum, and we're now no longer able to buy direct from them. And that's fine. I understand that. But now I'm at a hard spot because they have 4 or 5 different divisions. We purchase mainly one, but a little bit of Division 2 and 3. My distributor, who sells Division 1, that we sell a lot of, obviously not enough to meet the minimum, it seems, but we still sell a lot of, they don't carry lines 2 and 3. So now I'm stuck trying to find another avenue or another manufacturer who can get me that product that I used to buy from my distributor, or I'm sorry, from the manufacturer. My distributors, just in general, I never see them. I have to go to them, with the exception of, 2 of the smaller firms, which are great. But the big distributors who have everything I need, whose names everyone would recognize because they're big in Canada and the US, I don't see them. I don't get a call from them. I have to call them. Half the time I have to give them model numbers so they can go call somebody at head office to get me a price on, because they don't have it in their system on fairly standard stuff. And buying on the internet, obviously we can't buy most of what we need online because most of the manufacturers don't sell it online.
Just to clarify, you are 2 hours outside of Michigan. You are not in the frozen tundra.
This is true.
I am an hour from Michigan. I'm 2 hours from Detroit, 2 hours to Buffalo, and 2 hours to Toronto.
Damn.
And I go to Toronto probably minimum once a month for something, to either go see a supplier, see a distributor, pick something up, return something. we've had these conversations. We're going up for Westbury's event, and again, they're an integrator, but we're going up to an event mainly because I'll actually be able to see somebody. I'll be able to talk to somebody and get them on the phone. And again, I realize this is Canada, and I realize that I'm not a Westbury, or I'm not an AV ISBL, or I'm not any of what you guys do on a scale of things. But it is incredibly hard. Now, when it comes to somebody like FSR, I know Gina. Hi, Gina.
Hi.
And if I need something, I'm calling Gina, because I can make that happen, because we have a personal relationship.
Yes.
I know I have a rep, maybe. I have no idea who it is. I have a catalog. But that is the hard part of being not in a big metro. And I'm sure, as much as we'd like to think it's not the same, go find some guy who has a small firm in a sub 500,000 population city in the Midwest.
Tim.
I'm gonna guess Tim. I'm gonna guess that their stories are not too unlike mine.
Actually, you know what? Here's the thing about being where I live. I live outside of St. Louis. Technically, I live in
So
Southwest
you don't
Illinois.
count, is what you're saying.
Well, no, I don't, because here's the thing. I've got great relationship with all my reps. When I was a tech manager, I had great, until Sally left, I had great Crestron reps. The ones after that, I couldn't, anyhow, the Extron folks, the FSR, I mean, all of the folks that came by and talked with it. I don't know if it was the fact that we were in the middle of the country. Matter of fact, I was having an issue with Biamp today, and I called up a good friend of mine who's also our Biamp rep, Corey Boyer. I said, Corey, I need help. Corey stayed on the phone with me for an hour as I troubleshot this system. Again, St. Louis is flyover country, but it's also a kind of a I hate using convergence, but it is kind of a convergence of the east and west, and there's a lot of people in the middle here that all kind of take care of each other. So
here's the fun caveat to that, though. I called one of the companies that you mentioned just now, who I'm not going to name, because we have a project that requires some of their products. We're currently not a distributor, we currently don't buy from them. We've been trying to get him on the phone, our local rep, since before ISE, 2 weeks before ISE. I can't get pricing yet from them. Not my pricing, like MSRP. So I have an idea what I'm quoting. So now I'm going to probably dump them and go to another company who hopefully I can get on the phone. But you know why I can get them on the phone? Because I know one of the VPs. So worst case scenario, I'm going to get on the phone and call him and say, hey, I need to know who I'm buying from. Get me in touch with them. I don't care where I have to go on the list. Get me somewhere on the list so I can buy something.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is we're trying to sell your products.
Exactly. And that's sometimes they forget that.
I've complained and rallied against this for years on this show. We want to sell your products. We are a small industry. You need us more than you think you do, especially the smaller companies like mine. Yeah, we might be a bit of a headache, but we're the guys that are going to grow into the bigger firms that hopefully will keep the rest of your employees employed long after you've left your company.
Yeah.
I don't think you're even, I wouldn't even say that from a manufacturer standpoint that the small firms are a bit of a headache. I think that what happens with the small firms, I mean, I like working with small firms personally. I like working with the smaller schools personally. I have a couple of contacts. They end up becoming friends. They'll give you honest feedback so that you can modify your product so that it actually fits the industry rather than what an engineer room might think it should be doing. I think that those smaller groups, the smaller schools, the smaller companies are really the ones who have the most interest in allowing this industry to grow, and by giving us feedback, that's what you do. And that's kind of the point. Like, why would you go and buy something online when you can call somebody up and you can say, hey, listen, does it do this? Because I really need for it to do this. And you can't talk to your online shopping cart and say, well, as long as you're confirming that it does what I need it to do, then I'm going to press buy now. There's no interaction. There's no support there.
Yeah,
I agree completely.
All right, we're up against time here. Harry, Matt, or Matt. We already had you say. Harry, Tucker, or Neto. You guys want to chime in on the rep versus direct buy, folks?
It doesn't matter as much to me, although it is kind of disconcerting when a rep comes in with one hat and then leaves and then comes back in with another hat, and likes to use phrasing like, "Well, we here at FSR," or "We here at Crestron," or I'm like, "No, you're not." But the things that I like is the being able to call somebody internally, like being able to call Gina at FSR if I've got an FSR floor box issue that I need to figure out, or something like that. And having the contacts on the inside that can get me better information in a quicker fashion, because while reps are good for selling and getting your face in front of people and getting your name in front of people, out here in the trenches, you've got to deal with the actual nuts and bolts of what's going on. So I'm much more concerned with the back end support than I am necessarily the front end sales rep.
Yes. No, that makes sense. Mr. Neto?
Was this more, now this is Ted Green, so
Yeah.
was this more resi consumer type situation where he was saying?
It's a lot. It was a broad spectrum one, right? So it was just it was AV in general, but yeah, Ted does tend to lean more towards resi.
Because if that's on the residential side, I can definitely see that. I think in the commercial side, we tend to lean more to direct and to dealer reps and stuff like that as well, because we're dealing with stuff that is not so much off the shelf. Gina cannot sell online because my floor box has to be a specific floor box that I specifically need. Aside from being X amount of feet and having X amount of pins and pin outs or whatever, that's you can buy online, and that's great. But you start getting into the specifics of what you need for these projects on the commercial side, it's not so much something you want to buy on the shelf. For the most part, you need to verify that. But when you're mounting displays, you need to know the weight of the display. Can the mount
handle it?
That display. So and there is a whole series. If you dial up Mr. Coxon, he'll tell you about earthquake regulations and laws and safety issues and stuff like that. So I don't think from a commercial side, the off-the-shelf buying it online really applies. I think it's more of a statement towards the resi side of that.
Well, I will say this. One of my biggest commercial-specific distributors, their main push is, hey, have you visited our online store? Like, no, I need to call you.
Yeah.
They're big. They like drones.
Oh, jeez. On that note, good night. We're going to wrap it up. Mr. Tucker, thank you, sir, for jumping in. We had a couple cancellations, and suddenly I ended up with 5 guests instead of 3. So my entire crew said, oh, yeah, Tim's in trouble. Let's go. Thank you, sir.
Happy to be on, and I can just say that we can now end this broadcast, and I won't have to go back to hear you snoring in the middle of the night. So,
amen, brother.
There you go.
That's what happens when you spend a week in Amsterdam together and end up in the red light district, just for the record.
On random, yeah, it was a left turn. There we were.
It was a left turn. It was in the middle of the day. Just wanted to clarify all that. How can people find you?
At Tucker2s on almost any social media, Commercial Integrator, Higher Tech, and a number of other publications.
All right, very good. Speaking of red light district, Harry Mead, thank you, sir. How can people find you?
I have pictures of us from the red light district.
You do, unfortunately.
I am on Twitter at AVGrump because I tend to pop other people's bubbles of happiness. And Facebook, Harry Mead, and otherwise, that's about it.
Very good. Mr. Matt D. Scott, thank you, sir. How can people find you?
Matt D. Scott on everything.
All right, Matt D. Scott on everything.
Chris, literally everything.com, Matt D. Scott.
All right, Mr. Neto.
You can find me on Twitter at Chris_Neto. You can find my company at avhelpdesk.com. And yes, Harry, you are the ultimate bubble popper.
Yeah, yes, he is. Last but not least, Miss Sansevero, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do it again. You can find me at Gina Sands. You can find me at FSR_EDU. You can find me on college campuses across the country, and you can find me at FSR every once in a while.
No, very good. And FSR is one of our fine underwriters, so thank you guys for that. Don't follow me, but go by the website because Matt and lots of folks have put an awful lot of hard work on it. avnation.tv, avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. Right now, you're going to find a whole lot of video and blogs and writings from ISE. We'll leave that up for a couple of weeks or so you can take your time perusing all of the hard work that George and Harry and Brian and Matt did interviewing all the different booths. I just sat around and drank espresso all day, pretty much. So yeah, check that out if you would, please. Also coming up, we have the Resi Week coming up next week. If you are going to NSCA's BLC, say hi to Gina, say hi to me, and some other folks that are going to be there. I know Mike Shin's going to be there. Brock McGinnis, John Green, our buddy Kelly Perkins will be there as well, and
I think Corey Schaefer is going to be there.
Corey Schaefer, Chuck Wilson, all kinds of really cool people. So yeah, go by that. But yeah, go by the website avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This has been AV Week.